Hi, everyone, and welcome to this safe space. This is the podcast where we empower conscious leaders to expand their confidence, their impact, and freedom. So, today we're going to be talking about fear. In the last episode, we talked about manifestation and how fear affects manifestations. So, today we're going to go deeper into the fear and we have John here. So, how do you see fear affect our lives, affect our manifestations, affect our, dreams becoming true? How does fear play a role?
Yeah, so I would say fear has such a huge role in our life, actually, unfortunately. And we can say that it affects our manifestation because fear is always manifesting the things that we do not want, actually. But also it affects our confidence a lot. And one of our missions here at this show is to help conscious leaders like yourself with confidence. And I'm a business coach, I'm a marketing coach, right? I help people with learning how to sell ethically and that kind of stuff too. But I can tell you that for a lot of us, the lack of confidence in our ability to deliver results that are worth charging good prices for is the main thing that stops people, right? It's a lack of confidence more than just a lack of skill in marketing or sales that affects a lot of people. Like at least half of the people who are struggling, especially in the beginning, are just missing confidence in themselves, their ability to deliver. And I would say confidence and fear are like opposites, right?
Mhm.
And our mission with the show, right, is to help people with impact too. And so we're stopping ourselves way short of our potential due to fear, and confidence could break through that. But today, I think it's really worthwhile to go into fear. Like, what is fear, and how is it stopping us? And if we can look at the mechanics of fear, I think that that's what I do. I see the mechanics of it. It has an inner mechanism that actually creates what we do not want. And if we can get into it, it's actually very easy to reverse. In my opinion, it's very easy. But there's one key step to overcoming fear that most people never practice, and that has been the main thing that has helped me the most. So yeah, I'd love to get into like my little formula here if you want.
Yes, please. Let's dive in.
Okay, cool. So for all those listening, I think like first of all, let me tell you something my teacher said. He said there's no such thing as general spiritual practice or general healing. It's only specific, right? Specific healing, specific practice. That's what, when it lands on something actually within us, that's when we can gain life-changing shifts actually very quickly. So, in terms of fear, the first step is to just identify the actual fear. Now, people have used the word for like anxiety and fear. They say it's fantasy with a bad ending, right? Fantasy with a bad ending, fantasy that leads to catastrophe, right? So that's kind of what anxiety is. If you think about it, like we're in the future, we're thinking about something in the future. It feels like we're on this collision course with something that we do not want. It's not just that we're imagining what we don't want. There's actually a belief there that we're imminently headed for this thing,
Mm.
right? It's my partner is gonna dump me, or my partner is gonna cheat on me, or my business is gonna fail, or I'm gonna do this workshop and no one's gonna show up, or I'm gonna speak on stage and I'm gonna freeze. And like we're not just imagining what we don't want. There's more to it than that. That's part of it. But the part of it that deeply disturbs us is the belief that it's going to happen. The
Mm.
belief. Yeah, go ahead.
So we are not only in the future and not only predicting the future where, like which is an illusion, and also it's not just the unknown, it's almost like we know and we are so our belief is that the worst possible scenario is going to happen. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I like that you brought up the unknown. It's like that. It's like the unknown is just this dark room, but our fear paints pictures in the dark room that are scary to us. But not just that, it's that we believe in them. I really want everyone listening to just get in touch with the fact that fear is more than just imagining that what you don't want. It's believing in it. It's believing that it's there, believing that it's true, believing that it's imminently going to happen, that we're headed for it, we're on a collision course with it, it's unavoidable, or it's 99% gonna happen or whatever, right? And that is what's so scary, is that fear, that is the belief. The best analogy for fear, and I can tell you, everyone listening, I did a long, silent, solitary retreat where I was by myself for 5 weeks, complete silence, complete solitude, no talking or eye contact with anyone for 5 weeks. And it was a deeply purifying experience because I was emphasizing purification practice. But what I discovered, I had to like look within and find like the deepest, darkest demons that are inside of me. And I was specifically looking for them so that I could target them and release them. And what I found is that most of the time we're believing in things that are not there. And the best analogy for this is a little child who is scared of the boogeyman in the closet or the monster in the closet. Now, I want to like break it down so we can really get into it. Like, is the solution for the child to remove the monster from the closet? No, because there is no monster in the closet. But
Mhm.
what is making him afraid? It's a combination of the darkness plus believing that something is there that isn't there. Now, if you remove the darkness, can you sustain that belief? No, you can't actually sustain a belief in something that isn't there if you just turn on the light, right? So the mother can help the child not by removing the monster, but simply showing the child that what they thought was there isn't actually there, right? They just turn on the light and blah, blah, blah. Now, that is something. Go ahead. Do you have something?
I was just gonna say, definitely been there, turning on the lights and showing my son that, look, there's nothing there. Like, let's do a tour of the house, look under the bed, in the closet, look, turn the light on and just show him that there's nothing there, right?
Right. And so this is an example of something that we're afraid of that's present in the present moment, but
Mm.
it's also something physical that we can see with our eyes. And so turning on the light is simply enough. But if you look at the future, sometimes we have less access to the future,
Mhm.
right? It's only being in with our imagination. It's a little bit harder to like put yourself there, although you can. That's one of the techniques. It's a little bit like fast forward, play the tape forward, go into the future a bit and explore. But you can't do that with the reckless mind of fear. It's not calm enough. So the first step, let me get back to this formula. The first step is to identify the thing that we're scared of, right? We're identifying the thing that doesn't exist, but
Mhm.
that we're afraid of happening. And
Mhm.
in the moment, though, we are not able to be persuaded that it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
That's what I used to tell people, and I used to think, and I think a lot of people, we try to go right to the third step, which is to like overcome the limiting belief, right? There's some belief that's in something that isn't there, right? The boogeyman in the closet, that I'm gonna speak on stage and gonna fall apart, or that I'm gonna do my workshop and no one comes, or that whatever the fear is, right? My partner is gonna leave me. We have some fear in something that doesn't exist, but that at the very core of that fear is a belief. At the very core of the fear, I think that's a premise that I'm building on. So hopefully everyone can accept
Mhm.
that premise. The very core of fear is a belief in something that is a lie. It's a lie. It doesn't exist, right? But however, our mind is rejecting the lie. Our mind is rejecting that reality, and that's what makes us shake. The shakiness, that tremor of fear, the instability caused by fear, that paralysis is actually not caused by the belief. It's caused by rejecting the possibility of that belief being true. It's
Mhm.
the rejection that causes it, actually. This is the interesting part. And so the second step, this is the one that everyone misses, is to accept. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. If we accepted the possibility of the thing happening, our heart would open and our mind would clear and we would become stable and calm enough where the logic would penetrate and we'd be like, oh, that's actually not true. Right. But at first, you could tell me, you could tell the other person. I've been in that room with someone who's terrified, and the logic will not penetrate. Things that are saying get bounced right off because the person is so unstable in that mindset that they can't hear it. It's like a very, very stormy water. A little truth cannot be perceived, like they push it away.
Mm.
Now, I'm a man of precision. I like being precise. And the precision here is that when we push away something that's true, that's where we get super unstable. But the truth isn't the fact that we're going to fall apart on stage or that our partner isn't going to leave us. The truth is the possibility. So I think that's the key precise factor for those of you who are scholarly or whatever and you want to be precise. Like the possibility is true, right? If
Mm.
I'm walking to the front of a room to teach a meditation class, I've been there, I've been nervous before. In fact, the very first time I was teaching at a center that I just became the resident teacher of in Florida, the very first time I was very nervous and I hit my back on the little thing behind me. There was a wall behind me, and on that wall was a Buddha statue, and Buddha was holding a bowl, and the bowl actually fell out of his hand and onto the floor because I touched my back. But in the
Wow.
process, I'm a monk and I'm in robes, and I put my legs up too high, and I was told I flashed the audience a little bit too. This is my first time, right? And I was actually so nervous that I was mumbling, that I would like mumble into I would talk really quiet when I was nervous. And so I would like mumble into the microphone. They kept trying to fix the mic. I was there, like, I know what it's like to be nervous. And what I tell you is that if you reject the possibility that bad things will happen when you teach, it makes you more nervous. But if you just accept the possibility of, you know what, I might bomb today. You know what, it might be horrible. You actually, the nervousness goes, and now you can think clearly.
Yeah.
And now your mind is open to wisdom, to logic, to sane thoughts. You can let go of the insanity, right? So that second step of embracing the possibility, not the truth that is going to happen, but the possibility that it could happen.
Mm.
That's because there's no point in just telling yourself, well, you know what, that wouldn't happen. My partner won't leave me. But if you're afraid, that means you're compulsively believing it anyway. So you may as well play along with that belief a little while longer, just enough to accept it as a possibility, let
Mm.
it into your heart. Then you get stable, and now you can see clearly. And now any wisdom that you could tell yourself will land.
Yeah, it sounds like you will be gaslighting yourself if you don't like lean into the possibility, right? If you say, "Oh, that wouldn't happen," but you're
Yeah.
believing and fearful of it happening. So and if you tell yourself, "Oh, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen," like you're literally gaslighting yourself. And I like to ask my clients, like, "Okay, what if that happens?" You know, when we're talking about fear, when you are okay with the worst case scenario,
Yes.
and you
That's
accept
it.
it, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna die. If even if that happens, that happens. And then, okay, like what do I do when that happens, if that happens, right?
That's
So
right.
when we're okay with the worst case scenario, then we can lean into the best case scenario.
Yeah, exactly. When we accept the worst case scenario, we're calm and peaceful, and then we can intentionally create whatever reality we wish to on that basis, right? But if you're rejecting the worst case scenario while actively being terrified of it, you're in the jaws of that fear. You're a prisoner to that emotion, and you can't create anything.
Mhm.
I'll give you a quick example. One year after I officially walked away from being a monk and I was trying to get my business going, I had a few months where I was not successful yet. And I had just moved to Miami Beach area, and I couldn't get the money I needed. So I had to sleep in my car for a little while. And yeah, I was like, you can call it homeless. Um, but yeah, for like 2 weeks, I had to sleep in my car. I had like no food. Um, it was like in between. I was in between residencies, we can call it. But yeah, I had to embrace that life. I had to actually embrace having nothing, being no one. All of a sudden, I was nobody. I had nothing. I had literally not enough food or money to eat or food. I had to bathe in the ocean. I smelled really bad. I was fatigued because of lack of calories. And I was sleeping in my car, which Miami Beach is actually cold in January, which is what it was. And I had all my stuff in my car. I had to sleep across the center console because I couldn't put my seat back. So I literally curled up. I'm 6'2". I curled up on the center console of a small car, and I put my meditation mat on the center console and my meditation cushion on the other seat. And that's how I slept. And it gave me knee problems because I shouldn't be curled up that much. And blah, blah, blah. I accepted having nothing. And then later in my business, when things were going up and down, I was not scared of losing everything because I could already embrace that worst case scenario. And so when we got to the wire, when we got under pressure, other people around me went into survival mode. My heart was open. I was in acceptance and I was thinking clearly and functioning well. And so we never did lose everything. And I never did have to go through that again because I was fully embraced with whatever that worst case scenario might be. I accepted it and I didn't run from it. And so I was completely stable and clear. And so that's the power that we can get when we release fear. But you don't have to experience it first, like I did in that case. There's many, 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 like probably countless, infinite things that I've avoided that my fear would have manifested for me, but I avoided them because I embraced them before they happened, right? Just like I'm teaching you guys today. So if you see, it's not the worst case scenario in general, but it's the one that your mind is thinking of that makes you
Mhm.
tremble. So it takes a little bit of introspection. You have to explore and find like, what's that one thought or possibility that when you think of it, that's when you start to tremble. And you need some meditative ability to be able to do this, I think, or you need to talk through it with somebody like us who can hold space for you and listen and help you, with that expertise. But either way, you need to do that. And so you identify the one that makes your mind tremble, then you accept that possibility, open your
Mhm.
heart to it, embrace it, right? There's a famous saying, don't fake it till you make it, face it until you make it. And that's it. You just face it. And then that third step is that overcoming the limiting belief that's on the inside. There's some sort of lie or falsity. The mind is believing in something that isn't there, such as this imagined future being imminent or being definite, right? I think imminent and definite are two qualities that we give to whatever the imagined future is. It's imminent, it's definite, and it's horrible, right? It's a catastrophe. That's sort of what happens. So the imminency, meaning it's bound to happen soon, that is a lie. That's not true, right? So that's a fake version of that possibility. It's definite. That's not true either because it's simply one of countless possibilities. And it's a catastrophe. I think that's also a lie because in many cases we can handle it. What I've helped a lot of people with this, and every single time, underneath whatever fear they think it is, there's another fear that says, I can't handle it. There's a
Mhm.
belief, I'm able to handle it, right? And I've helped a lot of people. If you just reverse that one, oh, actually, I can handle it. If this happens, like sometimes we're afraid of possibilities that could happen, but then we have a lie that thinks I can't handle it, but that's the lie, right? Maybe we can handle it. And so if you just reverse that, that's where going into the future is helpful. Go into that future, imagine the future unfolding with that mind of acceptance, but just bring this new belief, I can handle it, or at least the possibility that maybe I can handle it. And then you'll see, oh, you know what? I think I can handle it. Right. And again, if you talk it through with someone like us, we can help you with this. But that's the third step is bring that new belief in. I can handle it. Or the third step is really to reverse the limiting belief and to bring in any new beliefs that are helpful,
Mhm.
such as I can handle it, or this isn't going to happen, or no, that's not true. Any logic or wisdom that makes sense in that time is what you do in that third step.
Awesome.
Yeah. So those are the main three, but there's two more if you want to keep going. Should we
Yeah.
continue?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can. I'm taking some notes. Like I want to come back to certain things, but let's go with the flow. I think I don't want to interrupt your flow. So let's dive in. Let's keep going with the two more things, and then I have maybe some pointers or questions.
Okay. So the last two are more of the advanced ones that you can do if you are a meditator or if you want to just take this to the next level, which is really, really fun. Um, the fourth one is where you getting into the belief that life and the future, especially, is a blank slate canvas, right? The
Mhm.
future blank slate. Even today, it's a blank slate. It's an empty canvas. It's pure white canvas. You can do anything you want with it. And that's important because a lot of us get into these ruts and routines and we start thinking that our day is going to be on a certain pattern. We have these blocks in our mind. So the future doesn't feel like a blank slate. It feels like it's made up of all these predetermined blocks that we've already put there. And that isn't helpful because then we have to sort of, when we create our best life, we're creating around that stuff that doesn't really need to be there. So it's very helpful to just get into this belief. Just remember, I'd say this is extremely profound, but remember, life is a blank slate. Life is an empty canvas. The future is an empty canvas. I can do anything I want with it. Even my past is a blank slate canvas. That's the interesting thing. Our past is also a blank slate, empty canvas. You can paint your past with whatever you want it to be now, too, right? Like, I don't know if everyone listening is familiar with state dependent learning and state dependent memory, but these are psychology terms that explain that if someone learns how to play pool or billiards or darts or something while they're drunk, they're going to be better at it while they're drunk. And if you learn to do something when you're high or when you have caffeine, you're going to be better at it when you're high or when you have caffeine. I used to do this for my psychology test. I would drink coffee and then I would have to drink coffee on the day of the test to have my state remember all the things that I learned when I was under the influence of coffee. Right. I think we get that, right?
Interesting. Mhm.
But so that's dependent learning and state dependent memory. But it also is true with our emotions. If you're sad and you look backwards, you remember all the other times when you were sad and you think, oh, I'm just kind of a sad person. And if you're happy, you look back at the times when you were happy, you remember all those times and you're like, you know what? I was kind of a happy person. I'm always like a happy person. And when you're confident, you look back at all the other times that you're confident and you're like, I'm a confident person. Right. And so our past is literally changing constantly dependent on our state. And if we get into new states in the present, we can shape the past and the future into whatever we want it to be. And in particular, I think telling our story, like learning to have a clear story about who we are based on our past. Like if we just tell ourselves that new story, it creates a completely different past, right? Like it's open.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
that's what that like fourth step is just really getting into that, spending more time with like the past is a blank slate, the future is a blank slate. It's an empty canvas. I can create what I want. And just almost eliminating other things and feeling that sense of freedom. And then that fifth step is going to be to like actively create the one that you want. So like take your future blank slate, for example, maybe it's the workshop that I was going to do that I was fearful of. I was fearful of doing a workshop because I didn't want no one to come, or I didn't. Maybe I thought I would make a post and everyone would think a certain bad thing about me. I'm literally creating this in my imagination. But what if I make it a blank slate and then reverse it and do the opposite? So I say, well, maybe on is thinking good things about me. Maybe I do my workshop and lots of people come. So I just imagine the thing that I want. That's the opposite of the fear was, right?
Mhm.
And so you're afraid of public speaking and you're petrified of being on stage. The fifth step would be to imagine it going really, really well and believing in it. Imagination and belief combined was what fear was, right? That's what fear did. And so, but it just created what we don't want. Now we're using imagination consciously to create what we do want, and we're going to actively believe in it as a technique to create it on the basis of knowing that life is a blank slate canvas and we create whatever we want, and that our beliefs literally create reality because everything's a blank slate. That's how it works.
Mhm.
That's why belief can create because it is a blank slate. So you just kind of, this is just a fancy way of saying, get into imagining and believing the thing that you do want that is the opposite of what you didn't want before. And that is like the full reversal of the fear.
I love that. I love how you came full circle, back to like reverse engineering and like literally using the process that fear has power on you to take your power back and to create a future that you desire, right? It's amazing. And when you were talking about the you can create your past from the current state. So when I was going through, rough times, looking back, I can tell a story of me being really scared, right? I was scared. I didn't take this action or that action. I was stuck here. I was stuck there in my relationship or my business. But right now, like I am in a state of like freedom and confidence, and I'm very happy with all areas of my life. To be honest, I'm in a good state. So now I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, my past is full of so many brave actions. I was so brave, and I can tell you all the things that I did that was so brave, right? So now I have a different past than if I told the story when I was in a fearful state and I was like, oh, I stayed in that relationship too long because I was scared. Like it changes my whole past. And that's the power of like storytelling and also like getting into these states that you want to create. And I love that you put it in a way that I never heard anyone say it that way. I did hear about like, okay, the way you tell your story matters, even with your past, but like you're literally creating your past from the state you're in the present. That's really powerful.
Yeah. And also I also believe in the kind of work that you do with the breath work and the trauma release, because that's kind of what's happening is you're letting go of all these big that kind of they're kind of like coloring the past, right? And they make their way into the present. But my experience is by doing energy work and doing meditations and guided visualizations and going to group workshops and that kind of thing, like this elevates our level, and by releasing blockages, our level, our energetic and consciousness level rises,
Mm-hmm.
and that are free, and from those create a better past and a better future, right? And so like a lot of this will automatically happen if you do the right kind of energetic work, but it's helpful to consciously do them both. There's many access points, right? The access point for some people may be less verbal, and you just do energy work and then you add in this stuff as you're going. Or for some people, maybe you're more of a mental psychology based entry point, but along the way you have to add in the energy work to really make this feel alive, to feel like it's really working. So that's my only other thing to say is, for everyone listening, combine what I'm saying with deep meditation, deep energy work, breath work, being
Yeah.
held in circles and spaces and stuff. Like this is what's going to make it actually work for you.
I think that's why what we're creating together is so powerful, because I've seen this with so many clients and myself, in the beginning of my journey too. I was doing all the like mental work, rewiring my subconscious mind, digging into the beliefs and becoming aware of that. And then I went into energy work. But for me, there was something missing, and that was like my nervous system was not on board. So I couldn't get into those states, or I would get there but I couldn't sustain it because my nervous
Yeah.
system was still freaking out. Like the fear was in my body, right? So combining what I do with what you do is like we're covering all the bases. So if you don't even know where to start, or if you've been doing a lot of work and you still get frustrated, you still have a lot of fear, if you still feel like stuck in your business, in your life, just reach out to us and we can just talk to you and create like a personalized plan and see what's missing in your journey. um
Yeah.
and I work with a lot of like therapists, I work with a lot of like psychics especially, and like people who do hypnosis. And most of the time when we're so focused on that, at least in my experience, the missing piece for them has been the somatic work. So once they unlock that, they really like do quantum leaps. And I'm sure it's the other way around too. If somebody's so much focused on the body, right, and we are like not doing the energy work, the mindset work, the subconscious mind work, I'm sure that can be also the big missing piece for me. Yeah, like hypnotherapy helped me a lot, even though I was doing the somatic work. So it's best to combine both sides, because we are like a whole being. We're not just our body, we're not just the energy, we're not just the mind. So it's like mind, body, soul work is what we create here together in this container.
Totally. Yeah. What I'd say to add on to that is that a lot of us when our main practice is going to healers and doing the energy work and that kind of stuff, without really gaining a deep awareness of our own patterns and learning how to work with those and rebuild the patterns that we wish to, a lot of times we just end up back where we were before, kind
Mhm.
of like I think I've used this analogy before, but a dog that gets cleaned, what is the first thing a dog does after it gets cleaned? It
Jumps to the
looks for mud or
bottom.
it goes right to the dirty stuff. It rolls around in the mud or the dirt or the poop, and it gets dirty again because it just is used to that. And a lot of us, unfortunately, all of us, I'd say, after we experience deep healing and cleansing and purification, our patterns are going to bring us back to what got us dirty in the first place. And that's why, for me, it's important to do both. Like, we do need that relief and freedom and that up level that comes from receiving the energy work and going to healers and that kind of stuff. But we also need to discover what our patterns are. In this case, fear is a pattern, right? Whatever it is that we're believing in that's causing this fear, that's a pattern. The pattern of rejecting possibilities, even though they are potentially, possible, we reject them and that makes us unstable. Like, that's a pattern. These are all patterns. There's other patterns. By looking and finding these and learning to like overcome them with consciously, learning to take our conscious mind and turn it into our tool, right? We shouldn't let our mind do whatever we want and we shouldn't throw it away. We need it. We need to use it, right? We can't depend on other people all the time to do all the work for us. We need to learn to use our conscious mind. And so by learning tools like this, you can see how clearly helpful this would be, right? This is this you manifest. This is actually a manifestation tool that just uses fear as the entry point for how to target what to manifest, but it's the same as manifestation, right? So things like this, when you learn them, you can reverse all your negative patterns and build all the positive patterns. And then any little healing or energy work that gets done, it fills a vessel or a cup that's stable. And that's been my experience over time, is like all the energy work and self-love that I give myself, it fills a container that has solid, boundaries, that has solid edges or whatever. And it just fills and fills and fills over time. And
Right.
we can become like, we want to make that container solid and strong. And you need to be able to work with yourself like this for that to happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. I call it like the set points. You need to come to certain set points so that the other things can lift you up from there. But if you're not there, whatever you put in, you're never going to get here and it's going to go back down. It's going to go back down. Like, you need to be here. And like you said, when you are depending on someone else to do the work for you, you're always going to be dependent on someone else to do the work for you, right? Nothing is going to change. And here we're talking to conscious leaders, healers, coaches. So when you learn how to do this for yourself, take your power back in that way, then you get to teach this to the people you're leading, right? So that's also a very important point, because we're not here only, we're here to help you help yourself. We are here to help you take your power back. And, once you are being led and once you learn how to lead yourself, our goal is to help you lead others.
Right. We need to be our own doctor, right? That's something that Buddha said, like, be your own doctor. Like, that means, like, yes, rely on teachers, yes, rely on mentors, yes, rely on coaches and healers, but also you don't want to call up your teacher or your mentor or your coach or your healer every single time that you notice a fear. We want to give you tools, right? We want to give you tools so you can actively be creating your best life, and so that you don't have tendencies like self-sabotage and procrastination and whatever that just destroy your container, right? Imagine you're building this beautiful life and then self-sabotage gets in and you crack that side of that vessel, that container. Like, that's horrible. Like, we need to learn to patch those up, and we're giving you tools so that you can use them for yourself, as we have done. And when you get good at the tool on yourself, you can then go use it for others. And so, and that's what we're doing. And if you want our help to gain more tools or to build businesses out of these tools, to use our tools to kind of take your own and fashion your own tools out of the parts that we give you, we want to help you with that. If you're interested, just pop, your information below in our link, and we'll set up a call and see how it goes. And maybe you're a good fit. So yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you, Olivia. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.